Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a wonderful morning and we've got one more session before we have our first break. And I could not be more pleased to have the opportunity to spotlight the young leaders in our industry. And so before I do that, I should tell you who I am. I am Sarah Bohnenkamp, and I've had the pleasure for the past 3 years to work with the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef in the communications world. And as we've been talking about all of the things over the past couple of days, we know that that communication factor is that pulse. Right? It doesn't matter if we're talking about water, if we're talking about animal welfare, if we're talking about what the market's doing, or all of those things, there's that common connectivity. But I find it quite interesting in our world is that when we start talking about the young people in communication, there's often that, oh, yes, of course they're going to be on social media. Oh, of course they're going to do these things. And there's these expectations of what we hope that they might do. We also see and hear from our young producers and our agriculturalists that they want to engage. Right? There's a lot of passion, a lot of power, a lot of education, a lot of really beautiful things that they want to bring to the table. But they also feel sometimes some barriers. And so this next panel is going to give us the opportunity to hear from 3 unique perspectives from around the globe that will help us get some insights into what our young, bright minds think, feel, and really what they want you to know. Those that are sitting in the room saying, okay, so what, now what? What should we do to engage young people? What should we do to be better communicators? All of those things, they're going to give you some wonderful insights. So how does that sound? Are you feeling good? All right, good. I know you've been troopers. We started early. We're going to continue having a great conversation. And so without further ado, I'd like to do some great introductions of our panelists. And so I'd like to start with Kristine Tapley. Go ahead and join me on the stage. She is a beef producer and she works for the NGOs. I love it. And so join us on the stage. Have a seat wherever you'd like. And she's from Canada, and we had a wonderful conversation. I was in Calgary just a couple of weeks ago at the general meeting that they held. And it was really cool to get to know you because she was talking to me about the rich history her family has in beef production. It runs deep. And she's also a cattle producer with herself and her husband. And so I love that, every day doing the operational boots on the ground work. And she's also now working for Ducks Unlimited, where she's helping to create partnerships between agriculturalists, beef producers, and the NGOs that have a lot of really cool support and programs that can really add value and make it win-win. So excited to hear more from you. Thank you so much for being here. Our second panelist is Joe Burke. Joe Burke, come and join us on this stage. Joe works for Board B, and many of you may have already met Joe. He was with us on the tour on our first day at KeyPack. And working for Board B, he's got a wonderful experience, obviously. We've heard a lot about Origin Green and all of the great programs and great work that's happening. But a neat thing that you might not know about Joe is that he was the 2015 Nuffield Scholar. And so not only has he got this great corporate experience, but he's got this deep-rooted love for ag that has probably been there your whole life, right? Yep. So thank you, Joe, for joining us. Our third and final panelist joins us from Brazil. And so we have Ms. Denise Zucato. Please join us. And when I was getting to know Denise as we were preparing, I was struck not only by the fact that, multi-generations, she grew up on a beef farm, ranch, depending on what part of the country, the language piece, but she also has had great experience working on the corporate side. She's spent years working for JBS, and so she understands what that side of the industry is like, and so she's got a beautiful balance. So I love that not only are they, rooted in agriculture, but they've got some really diverse experiences along multiple points of the supply chain. So we've got some easy questions, some maybe hard questions. If you, as the audience, have questions that you would like them to address, please don't hesitate to use the app, and we will have time before break to go and answer those. So are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yes.
I hope so.
All right. Inquiring minds want to know. I want to keep it kind of broad to start off. There's a race for talent these days, right? Now, there's a lot of people out there, but not a lot of, those progressives, those people that are going to stand out and take a stand and, just make the things happen in agriculture. So you had choices. You could go work, in tech. You could work in agriculture. You could go in education. And you have all these choices in how you want to, have your career path go. Why agriculture? So what was the draw that got you here? And Kristine, would you start us off?
Sure. Well, growing up in cattle, I think that anytime that you grow up in agriculture, I think it roots you there, and it's hard to hard to take that out of your being. I think it's just part of you. So yeah, I certainly tried to get away from agriculture, and my schooling took me all about, and then I inevitably came back to this, and I am, I think, passionate about grassland conservation and learning about wildlife and biodiversity and things like that, and truly being in beef is the best fit. And yeah, and so that's kind of what brought me back. I thought I would go into environmental sciences and take that route, and really I just came back home because that was my solution. But yeah.
Wonderful. You just couldn't help it.
Yeah, it pulled me back.
Brought you back.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Joe.
Thanks, Sarah. I suppose what attracts me to the industry and what led me to maybe make some of the decisions that I made, and a lot of it maybe has been luck or fate, has just been the tradition of the industry, that our family has always been involved in beef production as far back as I can remember anyway, or anyone can trace it, and the level of opportunities that are there as well too, that there's a huge diversity of different enterprises that feed into this sector. That it's obviously hugely important here within the Irish economy, not just in the countryside, but our overall exports, our export revenues, even during the downturn, the beef industry and the wider agricultural economy continue to perform well. And yeah, that's well recognised, but that there's such a diversity of different things from, the marketing side, from the environmental side, production as well too, agribusiness, and that I suppose a lot of it is around marketing, telling your story, and yeah, that side of it has always been of particular interest to me.
So you like to choose your pleasure. You have all of this smorgasbord of opportunities. Which one do you want? It's there for the taking.
True, yeah.
Interesting. I love hearing that, because sometimes as I'm having conversations with young agriculturalists, they feel like it's a small pie. Right? There's only, so much that's going to go around. There's only so much land. There's only so much opportunity. Only the lucky ones get to do it. And so how would you reply to somebody that says only the lucky ones get to? There's really not that much opportunity.
No, it's easy enough to maybe rebuke that argument, because, right, you mightn't be born on a big farm maybe that maybe lends itself to being a full-time farmer in the everyday sense, in the practical sense, but there are so many other wider opportunities in the supply chain, whether it be in processing, in marketing, in sales. There's so many various different opportunities that you can start off down a particular path and take various changes as well too along the way. And yeah, there are plenty of opportunities for success, even for people who don't come from maybe that you could call more privileged background.
So be an entrepreneur. Get out there and make it happen. You can
True.
Do it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's really, I think, a spirit and an ambition as well too that is fostered by, certainly here in Ireland, and I know also speaking to delegates here as well too, globally within the beef sector, that sense of entrepreneurialism, that right, you mightn't necessarily be starting off from scratch, setting up a meat trading enterprise, but, being more innovative, looking at our day-to-day approach to different challenges and trying to take a new, more innovative view on things.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. Denise.
Yeah, I was similar as Kristine. I tried to get away from the beef production, especially because in my case, my family has been going that path for some generations now. And so I went to do my learning in sustainability in France, and really thinking that I would become a diplomat representing Brazil around that. And as I started leaving that world, I realized that wasn't the level of autonomy I was seeking for in my way of dealing with business. So I went back to Brazil and started working at JBS, which was a very good learning experience for me. And also from that, I was like, yeah, I want to do more. And having a family business that runs alongside with beef production that's so linked to sustainability, I was like, I have this big opportunity back in my yard, so I have to go back there and just be part of it. So since last year, I joined the management team of the company, and just, yeah, has been a very struggle being part of the family and being part of the management at the same time. It's always, for all the producers that are here and are part of family business, you know what I'm talking about. So,
well, let's talk about that a little bit more, because I know as you talk with those folks about the succession planning, right? They're like, well, I would love to be able to do more, but I have to wait. I have to wait for my turn, and there's this I want to do it now. And so how does that work for you? Are you feeling like you're getting to engage? What can we offer to those that might be reluctant to, give a little bit more engagement, for the younger generation? What might you add?
So in our case, we started it 10 years ago, like just the more legal part of it, but it took us some years for it to become part of the management and to become part of the daily operations of the business. And I do believe that in my case, it was good because it gave me the opportunity to go and work at JBS, to go and study more, to have this background that nowadays, when I come back to the business, it gives me a lot of credibility. So being a woman and a young woman in Brazil, you always face some credibility issues when you speak. So having this professional background really adds to what you say,
Right, so what new value will you add to the operation? Go and get that, bring it back.
Exactly.
Be proactive, figuring out what that might look like. Is it education? Is it going someplace else in another country?
Exactly. Especially in beef in Brazil, we are usually very conservative. So we are not very used to go and do some benchmark outside of the industry and bring that to our operations. And I was very impressed on Tuesday that we saw Kipak, and they had lean manufacturing in the slaughterhouses. And I was like, wow, that's something new. And I know that it doesn't mean that we are going to bring lean to the beef production, but what else is out there that we can bring and help us as an industry?
Beautiful. Kristine, what would you add to that? Because you face that family dynamic, and you had communicated to me that you and your husband have started your own operation. And so tell me, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, so I think that sometimes when we talk about succession in the industry, we just immediately hop to the idea that you'll take over for your dad, right? That's, how it works, and you'll wait your turn and you'll do that. But I think it's bigger than that. Succession just because I came from a fifth generation farm doesn't mean that I have to continue to farm, or in my opinion anyway, doesn't mean I have to continue to ranch on that ranch. I took a lot of valuable knowledge and a work ethic and a lot from my parents and that, century farm. But that situation wasn't the direction that I wanted to go. So I took those assets and moved them somewhere else. And I think that it's important to recognize when that's also an opportunity. I love my family. I love my brother, but we will not work together. I think you need to recognize that and don't try and hide it, because I can tell you numerous stories where people had just tried to live with it and then it blows up. And that's sadly what happens to lots of ranches, and then it divvies up that parcel, and that's not, that sets everybody back further. So I'm getting out ahead of it, and we still work together a lot. We still, sometimes market together. We still do some of our production stuff together, but we've moved away, and it's separate. And I often think, man, I don't know if that was the right idea, because when you're starting from scratch, that's a whole nother issue. It's a slow process, but but I'm happy that that we did it, and I still have a great relationship with the rest of my family, and we both have growing businesses, and I think that's succession too.
Absolutely. So there's not just one path to be engaged. Love that. Joe, what would you add?
Yeah, I think maybe coming at it from maybe a slightly more corporate angle, I suppose the challenge is there that as companies involved in this industry, it's a competitive landscape. And yeah, the supply of talent, of, you know, good budding opportunists out there is limited. They have other opportunities available to them as well too. So we need to invest in making ourselves look as attractive as possible. That, you know, we know these opportunities are there, but you know, there's this whole cohort of young people out there that maybe are coming through university, or maybe are making decisions as regards, right, you know, will I go in this direction, or what are the best opportunities out there. So by invest, I don't mean we all spend, you know, huge amounts of money in our corporate brand and, you know, make ourselves look really fancy and slick. But are there, for example, graduate programs available to young people when they come into our businesses? What kind of further development opportunities are there? You know, in Borbia, we have a number of graduate opportunities there every year, and it's just a case of making sure that our target people, young people out there, talent as well too, that they know that that's there, that that's a worthwhile career path for them to enter on. And, you know, that it's recognized, that it's in line maybe with some of the peer opportunities out there. They have, for example, here in Ireland, a big thing now is the computer sector, whether it's Google or Facebook, or, you know, loads and loads of those are located in Dublin or in the you know, neighbouring area anywhere around there. And, you know, they have such a slick corporate image, and it's very much mapped out when you go in there. This is kind of your 2 or 3 year path on this development. So to make sure that, not that it's too formalized or anything like that, it has to be fun, but that it looks attractive anyway to that young upcoming talent.
Yes. I'm curious, of the audience, if your organization, your farm, your ranch has some kind of a pipeline development program, a talent development program, a mentor program, graduate program, raise your hand. Wow. Just take a look, guys. Look around the room. I thought there would be more hands up. For those of you that have your hands up, I'm giving you a virtual high five. Anybody that didn't, go back and talk about the value, right? Because I think that's really, really critical.
Yeah, if I may, I think that the Canadian Cattlemen's Association has a mentorship program called the Cattlemen Young Leaders, and I truly believe that, I mean, the reason I'm in this room, the reason that program has accelerated me in my goals, and I think in our industry more than anything else that I have come across in my short career. But still, it's an amazing program because they truly take the experience and the leaders that are in our Canadian beef industry and give the young people who are interested or passionate access to those people. And that's what we need, right? I don't need, you know, that's what I need is the information or the teaching, because I know that there are all those resources out there. I know you've all made mistakes, so talk me through it. So give me, you know, give me that conversation so that I can that I can move forward, I guess.
I think that's such a beautiful point, right? Give me access. Give me access. Yes. All right. So I have one more question before we ask the audience, and then we'll get you to your break. Everybody tells me that the social media world belongs to you, and you need to go and slay the dragons when it comes to agriculture. How does that make you feel?
It bugs me. I have to say I could do a much better job at social media, and I feel almost bad for being up here and saying that I do such a horrible job, because I know that it's important. But it seemed like for a while there, I went to conference after conference, and every time they would say, well, you know, the young people have to tell our story. And, you know, I'm all for that, but I need your help. I mean, we have some communication marketing powerhouses in this room, and you want me to be just on Twitter? That's the plan? Like, I want to be part of the plan, but don't just put it on our shoulders. I don't know how you...
Yeah. Joe, what do you say?
Yeah, no, I agree fully with that because, yeah, it can be a bit daunting when you're on social media, and I'm not that active on it. I'd kind of step back from it a bit and watch what other people are saying and maybe lend a few comments here and there. But, yeah, it can be a bit too personal at times where somebody asks you whether it's your opinion or your position, or maybe taking something that maybe corporately as well too you might have put out and take that on. It's everyone's responsibility. Also the dragons, you know, these, you know, whoever they are, maybe they're coming from a position of either they just have a completely opposing view and that's not going to change, or maybe you can influence them by putting out, well, this is the actual story. We have research here in order to show that, you know, actually we're doing a very good job already and we're committed to, you know, even improving further, whether it be our environmental footprint or so on.
Yeah. Interesting. We're going to talk more about that this afternoon. We'll have some fun. All right, final thought, Denise, what would you add?
I would say that we do have to do that job. It's just that we need to be out there because sometimes I feel that we are speaking to ourselves too much. We are looking at ourselves too much, and we need to be out there because, yeah, that's the way the world happens. And I have a similar, I don't know if it's because of my family background, but I have these discussions in the family as well. Like, we are too much in the family and too much in the business, and we need to be out there and see what's happening. So for me, social media, yeah, for sure, is a big tool, and we should invest more in that, in advertisement and just these type of things, for sure, yeah.
Nice. So social is definitely an answer. We'll engage, but everybody needs to do it. We need to get out into new communities and not just speak with ourselves. We need to be aware that there could be some, you know, how do I have my corporate role and then be able to speak, you know, authentically to my true, you know, thoughts on social. You guys have offered some really great insights. Now, just time check. How many minutes are we over? Awesome. Then we can take a couple of questions. And so, moderators, do we have some great Q&A for our panel?
I've got a question here, and it's not about social media, it's about your real friends. So, do you have a network of friends who are beyond agriculture? We just heard that, you know, we often talk to ourselves, but your friends who are not involved in agriculture, do you find that they're open to listening to what you're talking about in terms of sustainability? And are they open to hearing something that's different than what they're hearing in their own sort of social media circles?
Who feels like they want to take the charge?
I would. I think when I talk, I mean, my close friends are sick of hearing me talk about cows, right? But I'm bringing like hormone pamphlets to our Christmas dinners and things. But I think what surprises me most often when I engage with my peers is that they know me and they know that I'm in beef. And so I must produce really good beef. And, oh, but that's Kristine's cattle. You know, they're sustainable. But no, you know, hold the phone. Like, you just were bashing the feedlot industry. My cattle go through the feedlot industry. It's all part of the system. You know, all part of the Canadian beef system. And so it's, I think, having that conversation to recognize, yes, it's a sustainable system, and there are several pieces to it, and don't just put me on a pedestal because you know you've seen my pasture kind of thing. I think it's a great way to open that conversation, and your friends trust you, your peers trust you, and it's just maybe helping give them the bigger picture, I guess.
Right, so they've got that connection with you, that trust with you. They're asking you, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
And opening it to that bigger conversation. That's great. Denise?
I would say that the trust, yeah, just picking up in this, like this trust, I do believe we have a trust crisis right now happening, and
you say a trust crisis?
Yeah, a mistrust. So yeah, like there is something around trust that we as a system, we are not being able to do it. And I do believe, at least with the people I know, they are very open to listening, but we have to find ways of storytelling and of telling our stories better, because at the same time, if we come and tell them a story but very heavy and in a not very fun and accessible way, yeah, they're not going to engage, and just that's just part of human beings, you know. After some minutes we disengage and that's it. And if it's something that we find not so interesting, we don't listen, and that's the way we are, yeah.
Got to break through that trust crisis.
Yeah.
All right, final thoughts, Joe. What would you bring?
Yeah, similarly, engaging with people totally outside of agriculture, and some of them non-beef consumers, whether they're vegans or vegetarians, bringing our strengths to the table, trying to communicate the advantages that we have as a sector, as an industry, that, you know, we're not doing anything that's, you know, bad for the welfare of the animals, bad for the environment, intentionally, and that we're working towards improvement and doing the best possible job that we can. That there is a big job of communicating that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, like the girls, having friends just totally removed from this, whether it's through sport or so on, and that they're coming from it maybe with something that they've read on the internet, or they've seen a particular video on YouTube, and they take this as fact, and you're like, no, it's actually not like that at all. You should come down and we'll show you it's actually totally different to that, where, you know,
you invite them in?
Totally, yeah. And, you know, it's so interesting to see their reaction then, that it's not this huge, big, massive scale pharmaceutical, you know, type of a hell that they kind of perceive it to be. So, yeah, I suppose going forward, whether it be through social media, through just getting our story straight, and using examples as well too of leading producers, similar to the ones as well too that we visited on Tuesday on our tours, and that this is actually the reality with very high standards. Everything is well organised. It's coordinated. Yeah, exactly.
Bring them in.
Exactly. It's genuine. It's authentic. It's natural. Yep.
If I can add just one thing to what you're saying also, I do believe that like this one YouTube video is not the fact of the whole industry, and it's not representative of the majority of the industry. But I do believe at the same time we should own some of the mistakes that we did as an industry and some of the problems that we have, like, and just be clear about them and show what we are doing to overcome them. And that could be very helpful to build on our credibility as a system. That's my feeling.
Having real conversations, acknowledge what we know, here's what we're moving forward with. You guys have been fantastic. Let's give them a round of applause.